In this video, which is the second part of an overview of the RadComboBox from Telerik, we'll cover animations, multi-column mode, and how to display content using templates. And we're going to show you three basic things in this video. The first one is the animation effects that come pre-packaged with the Telerik combo box, so that you don't have to do anything to get effects like the bounce and the roll-up. The second thing we'll demonstrate is how to get a multi-column display to show up in the combo box's drop-down list, so that when you pick one of the items, that item still shows up in the combo box selection area. And then the final thing we'll demonstrate is how you can use the combo box item as a template into which you can place other controls, such as a calendar. Now, this video is a continuation of a previous video in which we added a SQL data source that connects to the Northwind database, and it selects the products table from the database. We also placed a RadComboBox onto the form. Now, the animation effects are just a property setting inside the RadComboBox. There's no code behind associated with it, and the properties that you need to set are found in the collapse animation and the expand animation properties. And if you expand that property, the animation type is listed here in a drop-down box. And probably the best thing that you can do is take a look at something that looks familiar in terms of its description, pick it, run it, see what it looks like, find an animation that you like. Next, you pick the duration that you want it to take for the effect. And you'll notice there's also this collapse delay property setting, so that you can specify how long it should take after your cursor leaves the combo box before the collapse begins. Likewise, there's this expand animation property down here. It's got an expand delay. It's got the same types of expansions that you can select from, and it's got a duration. Now, since the next demonstration is going to be about multi-column, I'm just going to take these animations out. So we'll get rid of the collapse animation and the expand animation and set those both to none, because what we want to focus on is how to make a multi-column display inside our drop-down. Now, the first thing I'm going to do here is set up what's going to be displayed inside my drop-down. And you could work inside the item template manager, but I find it easier sometimes to work in the markup. So I'm going to paste in here markup for a header template and an item template. The header and item template can contain any arbitrary HTML you want displayed in the drop-down. And in this case, header template just sets up the widths of the columns and the column titles, product name, category name, unit price, in stock, and on order. And in the item template, all we're doing is data binding the corresponding columns from the data table row that's being bound to this particular item and displaying it. I'm going to do a little bit of formatting, for instance, on this unit price, because it comes with 4 decimal places and I only want to display 2 decimal places. And I also make sure that the widths of the columns are aligned with those inside the header. The next thing that I need to do is to configure the data source. I've told it that I want to display category name, but I'm currently displaying only the products table, which doesn't have a category name. What I really need is this alphabetical list of products, which does have category name. I'll just select all of the columns there and finish. The next thing that I want to do is select my combo box, and over in the properties I am going to handle the item data bound event. And again, we'll paste in some code that takes the item that's being bound, extracts the product name, category name, and so forth, again formatting the price and the units fields. And I'm going to put those all into one line that is delimited with a semicolon. I'm also going to take the product ID and I'm going to place that into my item value. Now I want to demonstrate a couple of problems that you might encounter. So let's run the application here. And then a couple things you'll notice. One is that we have all of the information displayed up here inside the text area of the combo box. Another is if we drop down the combo box, things are pretty jammed up here. So there's a couple things that we can do about that. One thing I can do is go back over, select the combo box, and in the properties of the combo box there is this drop down width, and I'm going to make the drop down width 450 pixels. What that's going to do for us is, even though the combo box itself is only 300 pixels wide, it'll extend the display of the drop down out to 450 pixels. Another thing that I can do is handle the selected index change event of the combo box and extract just the product name and display that in the combo box text area. Now, in order to do that, because I want to do it without a postback, I'm going to select a Rad Ajax panel. Just drag that onto my design surface and close up the smart tag inside, and then I'm going to drag the combo box itself and put it inside the Rad Ajax panel. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to update this text that's being displayed inside the combo box, and I want to do it without a postback. And by wrapping the component in an Ajax panel, that'll accomplish those purposes for me. The next thing we'll do is take the combo box and again go over to the properties. In the event handlers, we're going to select the selected index changed event. And in the selected index changed event, I am going to find the item that's been selected for the combo box. The text of the item is going to be split into an array that's delimited by the semicolon. That's this semicolon up here. And then I'm going to take element 0 of the array, which is going to be this product name field. I'm going to place that product name into the text area of the Rad combo box and then set the selected index to be -1. If I don't select the selected index to be -1, it's going to just display this text from the selected item. And then in order to get this selected index changed to post back, we are also going to need to tell the combo box that its auto post back property is set to true. And then, because we are setting the text of the combo box itself to something different than is contained in the items, in other words, we're going to set it to a truncated version of what's contained in the individual items, the combo box is going to consider that to be custom text. So another thing that we need to do is allow the custom text to be true. And so now if we run the application the way it's currently configured, when the combo box comes up, we can select an item, this Northwoods cranberry sauce. It'll post back, and after just a very brief time, it erases the extra text and it puts in just the Northwoods cranberry sauce. And you also notice that when our drop down is dropped down, our table formatting looks better because we've got a little more space, because the drop down is now wider than the combo box itself. Now, to get ready for this final example, I'm just going to go over to our markup page, and I'm going to remove the header template and the item template that we have defined back here. Then we can go back over to the design side, and if we pop open the edit templates, inside that item template there, we can select a Rad calendar component, and we'll drop the Rad calendar component into the template. Now, there's a couple things we're going to set on the Rad calendar component, and the first thing we're going to do is disable this multi-select. We don't need that. We're only going to select one date, and we're going to display it in the text area of the combo box. And I'm going to select a different skin, and the sunset skin is the one that I used in the introduction, so we'll just go ahead and use that same skin. We'll close up the smart tag, and I'm going to select the calendar and set a couple of properties on it as well. And one that I want to set is this show row headers. I want to get rid of the week numbers that are running along the left-hand vertical column of the calendar. Now, the behavior that we're heading for here, or striving for here, is that when there's a date selected inside this calendar item, we want to display it in the text area of the Rad combo box. And in order to do that, we're going to use the client-side events property. So on client events, when there's a date selected, we want it to go execute a JavaScript called onDateSelected. Now that doesn't exist yet. We're going to write it right now. So what I'm going to do is just paste in an on-date selected JavaScript and one other, and then we'll discuss what it is that they do. So here's our on-date selected that we just put in as a client event property on the Rad calendar. And the first thing the JavaScript does is it gets an array that contains all the selected dates in the calendar, checks to see if the length is greater than 0. And if it is, it goes out to find our Rad combo box and sets the text of the combo box to this dates array in position 0. And what this is, if you inspect it, it's an array that contains the year and the month and the day, and those are going to be joined together by this slash character, and then that's going to be set into the text. And then the combo box is going to be instructed to hide its drop down. Now I see we got a second JavaScript function here called stop propagation. And what this is going to be used for is that when we click inside the combo box and select the date, we want to stop the event from propagating back up into the main application because it's all going to be handled client side here. Stop propagation is called from another JavaScript that we're going to write, but we're going to put this JavaScript down at the bottom of the form because it needs to understand what the idea of this div1 is that is going to contain our Rad calendar, and then we're going to set the onClick event of that div to point at the stop propagation JavaScript that's up in the head of the markup. So the last thing that we really need to do to complete this then is to put in a div tag and say that the ID is div1, and then we take the ending part of the tag and put it just past the end of the Rad calendar. So as the page loads and gets itself set up, it's going to identify div1, which contains the calendar. It's going to say that when there's a click event on div1, then we're going to call the stop propagation JavaScript. And if you take a look up here at our Rad combo box, you see we've still got a data source identified. So we don't really want to use the data source. If we do, then we're going to have a whole lot of rows with some Telerik Rad calendars in them when we expand the thing. But now, since we've taken away that list of items that are being data bound, we need to give it kind of a virtual item to bind to so that it's got something to take the calendar from this template and place it into. So all we do is we define some items here, and we can place in an empty Rad combo box item, and that's sufficient to give it an item to bind the calendar to. If we put 2 or 3 items here, we get 2 or 3 items dropped down, but we don't really need that. So now if we run the application, you'll see that if we drop down the combo box, we've got this one item that's got a calendar in it because that's what's dictated by the template, and we'll select Thursday, May 8th. And so the JavaScript that we wrote for the onDate selected routine that occurs client side goes out, extracts the date, and places it into the text value of the combo box. So that should give you just a glimpse of the powerful things that you can do with JavaScript inside the markup on the client side, as well as the things that you can do with template. For more Telerik videos, technical discussion forums, and examples, please go to www.telerik.com.